إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Every righteous person has two desires, and the more righteous you become, the stronger those desires become. First desire is izzah wa karama, honor and dignity, and pride. The more faith you have, the more you want it, the more it's so important for you. You want to be honored, and you want to take care of your honor. You have a pride, and you don't want to compromise that pride for anything, and you have dignity, and this is value. The more faith you have, the more you want. The second one, everyone wants to have a white face. What is it? What kind of face?
White face.
White face, not black face. Everyone, the white person and the black person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the day of judgment, يَوْمَ تَبْيَضُّ وُجُوهٌ وَتَسْوَدُّ وُجُوهٌ. Two categories the day of judgment. White faces, black faces. White faces, Jannah, black faces, hellfire. So far, many people don't like what I'm talking about. Because what counts is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. If you have the fundamentals in Islam, which is لا فرق ولا فضل بين عربي وأعجمي بين أبيض وأسود إلا بالتقوى, you understand what I'm talking about. When we know that one of the solid foundations of Islam, there's no difference between white or black, Arab or non-Arab, except with righteousness. كلكم من آدم وآدم من تراب. We all from Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and Adam alayhi salam created from dust. What color you are, it doesn't matter in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're not accounted on the color you are, or the origin you are, or nationality, or size, or whatever. You're not accounted on that. He created you like that, and you're perfect. Yes, you can look at every person, regardless who he is, and tell him you're beautiful and you're perfect, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we created the human being in perfect shape, beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَ. He perfected every creation. If we have that understood, then you begin to understand what I'm talking about, why everybody wants to have a white face. Here, I know some of you would say that's the day of judgment. No, here. We want to have a white face here, even if you're black, and you want to have a white face here, even if you're white. That's confusing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the day of judgment, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً وَلَا يَرْهَقُ وُجُوهَهُمْ قَتَرٌ وَلَا ذِلَّةٌ. Good people, righteous people, they will get the Jannah plus to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their faces will not be black, nor humiliated. No disgrace on the face, and it is white, pure white, like the moon. And he told us, who are those people? Those people who do good. محسنين. وَالَّذِينَ كَسَبُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ جَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ بِمِثْلِهَا. Those who earn bad deeds, the recompense is bad, just like you earned it. وَلَا يَرْهَقُ وُجُوهَهُمْ قَتَرٌ وَلَا ذِلَّةٌ. And their faces, والذين كسبوا السيئات جزاء سيئة بمثلها وترهقهم ذلة. Their faces will be humiliated, disgraced. And look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described. كَأَنَّمَا أُغْشِيَتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ قِطَعًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ مُظْلِمًا. Picture a night that has no moon, no sun, no stars, no even lights in the streets, nothing, just pitch black. That's how their faces look, even if they are black, even if they are white. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that the origin from these ayat of white faces is good deed. And the origin of black faces is bad deed. If you are white, your face is black in this life and in the hereafter if you're sinful. And people can see them. I can easily spot a white person with a black face from the humiliation of the sin. And I can easily spot a very dark person with a white face from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think everyone can relate and testify that you can see a black person with a shining face, and you can see a white person with a gloomy, depressing face. Why? Because good deeds brings light. Just like one of the righteous predecessors said, the sunnah, actually the meaning of that ayah, the day of judgment, that some faces will be white, some faces will be gloomy and black. He said the followers of the sunnah, their faces will be white. So when you listen to black and white in the Quran and in the Hadith and in the Sunnah, you always want to relate not to the color that we have now when we can call he's black and he's white and so forth. It is obedience and disobedience. That's what we're talking about. And it can be looked at and seen. And the day of judgment you will have that, and that is what we want to always focus on, is to have a white face in the sense of always do good. Wallahi, brothers, wallahi, when you talk about good and when you talk about white faces and black faces, you can see people that you feel so comfortable just looking at their faces. And you can see people, they can be as white as milk, and you want to throw up from the sin, from the disobedience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala displays it on the faces. Like, because the scholar said that you can sin at night, deep at night, and no one sees you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يَأْبَى إِلَّا وَأَنْ يُظْهِرَ هَذَا الذَّنْبَ عَلَى وَجْهِكَ. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuses but to display the evil, the darkness of the sin on your face, where people can see it without seeing you when you're doing the sin. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests you when you are alone. لِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَخَافُهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. He tests you when you're alone. He facilitates the sin for you. You're alone. Take care of yourself. Nobody's seeing you. Go ahead. It's open. You're the boss. And the righteous will say, you know, he sees me. Just like the woman that Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, or the boy, when he came, he wants to take a sheep. When he said, I can't give you one. I'm in charge of all of this. He said, just tell him, sell me one. Just tell him the wolf ate it. He said, and where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Okay, I can tell him, I can pass it. Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What I'm going to tell him. This is the idea that we want to always have, is when you are alone, look at yourself. Some people ask you, can you tell me a sign that if I'm righteous, or what is faith and how big and how righteous I am? Check yourself when you're alone. Check yourself when alone. If you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're alone, the same that when you're not, you're a good person. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always enlighten our faith in this world and the hereafter with good deeds, and make us avoid bad deeds. Jazakumullahu khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك.